You are staring through the floor-to-ceiling glass of your luxury apartment in the mid-levels. Below you, the neon grid of Hong Kong pulses with an energy that never sleeps. You are 31 years old. To the banking executives in Central, you are a brilliant investment consultant. You wear tailored suits, you drink imported whiskey, and you move capital with the precision of a surgeon. But the banking executives do not know your real title. They do not know you are a white paper fan. In the numerical hierarchy of the most powerful syndicate in Asia, you are a 415. The administrator, the brain behind the shadow economy. For 7 years, you took the massive, untraceable revenues generated from the organization's underground operations, the hidden gambling dens in Macau, the unregulated import-export fronts, the nocturnal logistics, and you washed them clean. You pushed the capital through shell companies, phantom real estate developments, and offshore corporate structures. You made the impossible money look completely legal. You built a financial fortress for the Dragonhead. But 3 hours ago, you made a fatal miscalculation. You opened an encrypted ledger you were never supposed to see. You found the internal audit. You saw the names of the syndicate members who had recently been permanently resolved. The ones who asked too many questions. The ones who wanted to step back. And at the bottom of that digital list, scheduled for a permanent relocation next week, was your name. The organization does not fire its executives. It erases them. You know too much about the corporate structure. You know the account numbers, the transit routes. Mock the politicians on the payroll. You are an unacceptable liability, and liabilities are always balanced out of the equation. The clock starts now. You have exactly 24 hours to cease to exist. Hour 24. The evaporation. You do not panic. Panic is an emotion for amateurs, and you are a professional. You rely on the exact same cold, mathematical logic that made you successful. You cannot pack a suitcase. A man leaving his luxury building with luggage at midnight is a man who leaves a trail. You leave the apartment exactly as it is. You leave the Swiss watch on the nightstand. You leave the designer clothes in the closet. You are shedding your identity like dead skin. You activate a hidden protocol on your secure laptop. You do not steal from the organization. Stealing from the syndicate guarantees an international hunt that never ends. Instead, you access your personal contingency funds. You route $2 million through 7 different decentralized cryptocurrency mixers. The digital trail shatters into a million pieces, evaporating into the dark web. You memorize the 12-word recovery phrase. Your entire net worth now lives exclusively inside your mind. You wipe the hard drive. You physically destroy the memory chips with a hammer. You walk out the front door wearing a plain jacket and a baseball cap. You leave the keys on the counter. The ghost has left the machine. Hour 20. The labyrinth. You enter the chaotic, sweltering streets of Mongkok. The air is thick with humidity and the smell of street food. Normally, this crowd would be suffocating. Tonight, it is your only shield. You move through the masses, keeping your head down. Your paranoia is absolute. While every face in the crowd is a potential threat. You know the organization employs thousands. You know the Red Poles, the 426. They are the enforcers, the specialists in physical resolution. They do not ask questions, they simply execute the will of the Dragonhead. Every man in a dark jacket standing near an alleyway makes your heart accelerate to a dangerous rhythm. Every slow-moving sedan feels like an extraction team waiting to pull you into the shadows. You duck into a narrow service alley behind a restaurant. You pull out a prepaid burner phone you bought 6 months ago for this exact nightmare. You dial a number that is not saved in any contact list. A voice answers. You ask for the specialist. You confirm the price. $50,000 for a premium exit package. You are given a coordinate and a time. Malai Katsing hour 15. The oath you sit in the back of a 24-hour tea shop in Sham Shui Po, sipping bitter tea you cannot taste. The exhaustion is beginning to set in, but the adrenaline refuses to let you close your eyes. Your mind drifts back to the beginning. You remember the initiation ceremony. You were 22, desperate, trying to pay for your younger brother's medical procedures. They brought you to a windowless room lit only by red candles. The incense master, the 438, recited ancient codes in Old Cantonese. You remember the smell of the burning incense mixed with sweat. You remember the white rooster. You remember the drop of blood mixing in the bowl. You swore the 36 oaths. You swore never to betray the brothers. You swore never to go to the authorities. You swore loyalty for life. The penalty for breaking the oath was clearly defined, and it was horrifying. You drank from the bowl, and they handed you a red envelope. You sold your freedom for that envelope. You thought you were joining a brotherhood. You thought you were finding a family. You realize now that the syndicate is not a family. It is a corporate meat grinder. It consumes youth, loyalty, and morality and spits out profit. You built a golden cage, polished the bars yourself, and now you are desperately trying to pick the lock before the executioner arrives. Hour 10. The ultimate cost. The hardest part of disappearing is not the logistics. It is the silence. You walk past a public payphone. You desperately want to call your mother. You want to hear her voice one last time. You want to tell her that the money you sent her for years was not from a legitimate trading company. You want to explain why you will never sit at her table for the New Year dinner again. You reach for the receiver. Your hand hovers over the cold metal. You stop. If you call her, you establish a connection. If the organization traces that call, your mother becomes leverage. Your brother becomes leverage. In the underworld, family is not a comfort. Family is a vulnerability that your enemies will exploit without a fraction of hesitation. To protect them, you must abandon them. You must let them believe you are an ungrateful son who simply vanished into his own arrogance. Your love requires your permanent silence. You pull your hand away from the phone. A piece of your humanity stays behind in that phone booth. Hour 4, the transaction. You arrive at an industrial warehouse near the Kwai Chung docks. The air smells heavily of diesel fuel and salt water. This is the edge of the world. The specialist is waiting. He does not ask for your name. He does not ask why you are running. He simply extends his hand. You transfer the cryptocurrency from your burner device. He verifies the ledger. He hands you a waterproof envelope. Inside is your new life. A perfectly sterile passport from a Southeast Asian country. A new driver's license. A new birth certificate. According to these documents, the man who managed the finances of the most dangerous syndicate in Hong Kong does not exist. You are now a logistics clerk named Chen. The cargo ship leaves in 2 hours, the specialist says, pointing toward the dark harbor. You stay in the lower hull. Do not make a sound. Do not turn on a light. If the maritime police inspect the vessel, you are on your own. You nod. You walk toward the docks. The rain begins to fall, washing the neon reflections off the wet concrete. Hour 1. The departure. You are sitting in total darkness in the freezing lower hull of a rusted cargo freighter. You are surrounded by wooden crates smelling of mold and engine grease. The metal floor vibrates violently as the massive diesel engines roar to life. You feel the ship detach from the dock. You feel the sway of the ocean. You are leaving the territory. You beat the clock. You outsmarted the Red Poles, the Incense Master, and the Dragonhead. You slipped through the cracks of an empire that sees everything. But as the ship moves into international waters, the psychological reality of your situation drops on you like a concrete block. You survived, but what exactly did you save? You reflect on your future. You will arrive in a foreign country where you do not know anyone. You have millions of dollars in digital wealth, but you can never buy a luxury car, a mansion, or an expensive suit. Conspicuous wealth attracts attention, and attention brings questions, and questions bring the ghosts of your past. You must live like a common worker, counting pennies at the grocery store, making sure you never stand out. The aftermath. 5 years pass. You live in a crowded, noisy neighborhood in a rainy European city. You work remotely, doing low-level data entry to justify your existence to the local tax authorities. You blend seamlessly into the gray background of the city. But the syndicate never actually left you. It lives permanently inside your nervous system. Paranoia is your only faithful companion. You check the locks on your door 4 times every night. You never sit with your back to a window. When you walk down the street and hear a conversation in Cantonese, your pulse skyrockets to 140 beats per minute. You immediately map the nearest exits. You calculate the distance to your emergency bag. You have no friends. You cannot date. How do you explain to a partner that your name is fake? How do you explain the nightmares that wake you up in cold sweats at 3 in the morning? You cannot share your life because your life is classified evidence. You sit alone at a small table in your tiny apartment, eating a cheap meal. You look at the rain hitting the glass. You left the Chinese Triad. You survived the 24 hours. You escaped the physical borders of their power, but you realize the ultimate devastating truth of the underworld. You did not buy your freedom. You simply financed a different kind of prison. You traded a corporate criminal empire for a solitary confinement of your own design. You are completely safe. You are incredibly wealthy. And you are absolutely, eternally alone. You are a ghost. And the tragedy of being a ghost is that while no one can catch you, no one can touch you either. You will spend the rest of your natural life waiting in the dark, wondering if today is the day the shadows finally catch up.